Good morning. Good morning. I don't know about you, but last week, while listening to the impeachment trial, I found myself uttering, "Oh my God," all day long. Indeed, on Wednesday, I bellowed OMG more times than Trump tweeted. When life becomes intense, prayer may be the best medicine. Conversing with God may be just what the doctor ordered. I have chatted with God as far back as I can remember. We have been in dialogue since my childhood. As a little girl, when my mother called me Patty Lou, I imagined God as a big black mama in the sky who could reach down deep into my heart with words of wisdom. To this day, God is a higher inner power for me. As my parents' firstborn, I considered Jesus to be my invisible brother. At nighttime, just before falling asleep, we would recount the day's episodes, as with any best friend. The intentionality of our discourse was peer-to-peer. We were buds. In Sunday school, I learned about Jesus' bud, Mark, and his memory of Jesus' teaching. Our first reading for the day, Mark 11, 22, 25. Jesus responded to them, "Have faith in God. I assure you that whoever says to this mountain, 'Be lifted up and thrown into the sea,' and doesn't waver but believes that what is said will really happen, it will happen. Therefore, I say to you, whatever you pray and ask for, believe that you will receive it, and it will be so for you." I believed God was like a vending machine. I reveal what I want, push a button, and voila, all my desires ought to come to pass. God was just like Santa Claus. "I'll be a really good girl if you will grant all my demands." My intentionality became more like a monologue. I talked at God rather than with God. However, that didn't work so well as I moved through the world. My alcoholic parents didn't change. My sister nevertheless died at birth. Henya, my schnauzer, the first to love me unconditionally, got run over. I still wasn't allowed to play tag football with the boys. Even the Beatles broke up. Disillusioned, I concluded, God apparently was not listening very well. So I stopped talking for a while. I learned more about the power of intentionality a few years later. While an undergraduate at UC Berkeley, in need of extra cash and enthusiastic about a new field of study called genomics, I procured a job working with Elizabeth Blackburn and her molecular biology team. Dr. Blackburn was researching DNA sequencing, for which she received a Nobel Prize in 2009. We were collaborating with a professor of gynecology at Stanford University in a breast cancer study. The study design used the cell line of a hardy breast cell cancer called MCF-7. Established in 1973, we still use that cell line today in studies. It is popular for its exquisite hormone sensitivity through expression of the estrogen receptor, making it an ideal model to study hormone response. My job was to keep the cell line growing. The cell line was divided into 3 groups, each receiving dissimilar intentions. All 3 groups were fed alike and lived in identical environments located at the Berkeley lab. The Stanford lab, 46 miles away, was tasked with remote verbal intentions toward the groups 3 times daily. Group 1 received the message, "You are a dreadful cluster of piss-poor protoplasm," a common technical phrase used in the medical community. "The universe should be rid of you." Group 2 was messaged, "You scare me. Please don't hurt me." Group 3 was messaged, "I respect your right to life. Can we develop mutual respect?" 2 months later, in our lab at Berkeley, again 46 miles away, Group 1, those who were bullied, grew triple-fold. Group 2, those who were the bullies, grew double-fold. Group 3, those treated with mutual respect, reduced its population to half. The power of intentionality on a cluster of single-celled organisms by a multicellular organism, a human, was a matter of life and death. As a scientist, I learned firsthand that intentionality matters. I also learned intentionality matters spiritually as well. In October 1999, a group of cardiologists from Kansas City, Missouri, and San Diego, California, published in Archives of Internal Medicine a randomized, controlled, double-blind, prospective, parallel group study. It looked at 990 consecutive patients who were newly admitted to the coronary care unit of several university-associated hospitals. At the time of admission, patients were randomized to receive remote intercessory prayer or not. The first names of patients in the prayer group were given to a team of outside intercessors who asked God daily over 4 weeks for patients' improved health. These patients were unaware of the prayers and never met the team. The group with no intervention served as a control group. In this study, a group of humans messaged God on behalf of other unknowing humans. These petitions were associated with reduced overall adverse events and length of stay of the patients in the prayer group as compared to the control group. Prayer proved to be good medicine. It didn't feel like good medicine 20 days ago on television when we watched millions of Muslims praying during the funeral procession of Iran's top military general, while at the same time calling for the death of Americans. And what about the prayers of the conservative right or the far liberal left? Aren't they praying to the same God as me? Rather, are these examples, many have collectively succumbed to a monologue in prayer, talking at God rather than with God. Have we lost the art of listening? Today's second reading from 3,000 years ago, back when the Israelite monarchy was just forming, a young boy discovered the need of listening to God. Samuel 3, 1 through 10. Now the boy Samuel was serving God under Eli. God's word was rare at that time, and visions weren't widely known. One day, Eli, whose eyes had grown so weak he was unable to see, was lying down in his room. God's lamp hadn't gone out yet, and Samuel was lying down in God's temple, where God's chest was. This chest is also called an Ark of the Covenant, a sacred chest containing 2 stone tablets inscribed with the 10 Commandments, kept in the biblical tabernacle and later in the temple in Jerusalem. God called to Samuel. "I'm here," he said. Samuel hurried to Eli and said, "I'm here. You called me?" "I didn't call you," Eli replied. "Go lie down." So he did. Again, God called Samuel. So Samuel got up, went to Eli, and said, "I'm here. You call me?" "I didn't call you, my son," Eli replied. "Go and lie down." A third time God called Samuel. He got up, went to Eli, and said, "I'm here. You call?" Then Eli realized that it was God who was calling the boy. So Eli said to Samuel, "Go and lie down. If she calls you, say, 'Speak, God. Your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down where he'd been. Then God came and stood there, calling just as before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel said, "Speak, your servant is listening." Is prayer meant to change God or change me? Is the true intention of prayer one of becoming a better listener? When we text OMG on our cell phones, or bow our heads in prayer, or cry out in prayer, are we venting or are we listening? Are we trying to change God, or are we willing to be changed? Today, when Americans are divided over everything except division, when viruses outsmart our human biology and strike in a deadly manner, when our leaders lack character and become impotent, when fires abound and Mother Earth weeps, when we are convinced God is no longer listening or even speaking, should we become compelled to stop, quiet ourselves, and listen to that still, small voice with a willingness to be changed in order to be the changer? Perhaps it's best said in the words of George C. Clements, a native New Englander and World War II veteran. God, can you hear God speaking? She's talking to you now. If you don't, it's because you're not listening or you don't understand how. The whisper of the wind, the rustle of the breeze-blown leaves, the patter of the rain, her voice is all these. The smile of a stranger, the sunshine in the morn, it's the twinkle of the stars above as another babe is born. God's language is simplicity, not made of nouns and verbs. It's in the blooming of a rose. It's in the growing of herbs. Her words are in this beauty seen only by the wise. It's what we take the time to view and what we recognize. Our Creator gave us everything. We need not ask for more. Give him thanks for what we have. Give her thanks for what's in store. Amen.